And this is why there is this confusion about the dangers, because we do have more understanding, it seems, about these low frequencies, because that's what where most of the science has been concentrated, isn't it?
There are thousands of studies that indicate the previous generations, as Lloyd said, of cell phone radiation is harmful to our health. And that would apply to low and mid-band 5G transmissions as well. So I don't believe there are many studies with the high band 5G, but they're out there, and if you dig for them, you'll find them. Harm from exposure to digital RF waves doesn't just apply to 5G signals; it applies to all of them. So again, we want to caution you on that. And another thing to keep in mind too is in 2011, the World Health Organization classified radio frequency radiation as a class 2 carcinogen. So that means it's possibly carcinogenic. And I think well, I hope it's going to be upgraded to a class 1 at some point. But, that's to be seen. The industry is really powerful, and they can oppose this, and it could take years for it to get to that status. But, speaking of 5G low and mid-band signals, since 5G has come out, we're finding more and more electrically sensitive persons are reporting that that there is a change in their RF environment since the 5G has been installed. So something has changed, and this could be because of the new modulation patterns of this 5G signal. They're highly pulsed. It's a more digitally dense signal, more than 4G and 3G. So it could be because of that. It could be because of the installation of additional transmitters, therefore increasing your power density exposure overall in that low and mid band frequency range. And I'd refer to Magda Havis's research, Dr. Magda Havis, in her global EMF group. She proved that cities with 5G infrastructure have higher overall RF exposure compared to the cities with just 4G LTE and 3G infrastructure. So another good source for information is the Environmental Health Trust with Dr. Dever Davis as well. Scientists and doctors called for a moratorium on the rollout of 5G, and they have all this information about it on their website too. And there's more studies too, like Trevor Marshall, Dr. Martin Paul, Henry Lai, Ollie Johansson from the Kerala Institute. So there's a bunch of information out there, and that we can refer to for all these health effects that occur from exposure, not just to 5G, but to any type of radio frequency radiation.
Yeah. And yeah, the research is there, and that's excellent. What you've just referenced there, Rob. For me, I just it's like we're all electrically sensitive. It's just that some of us can feel it and some of us can't. And that is why this is a problem for humanity. It's not just the problem for the minority that are feeling the symptoms. We know it impacts the skin, or that's what the studies are suggesting. Anything like that, any specific symptoms which seem to be taking the lead, or which we're noticing more than previously?
I would say a lot of the common ones are, sleeping issues, and that leads to fatigue and brain fog and things like that. And then, kind of like a tingling feeling or a vibrational feeling is a comment we get from a lot of people as well. And all of the other typical symptoms too that we have lists of. Um, I'm just having a tough time recalling them right now at this point in time. But yeah, there are definitely several out there. But I'd say those are part of the primary ones we get reported on a daily basis.
Please tell us, what is 5G? Because 5G is not really the word we should be using. It's millimeter wave, is it not? That's what we're really talking about. But everybody's talking about 5G, so we're just using terms that people can understand. And then we'll go into the different kinds of 5G.
5G is a complicated topic. There's a lot of technical terminology to understand, and the way it works is not simple. So, I'll try to explain it as best I can here. So, yeah, it's a great question. So first of all, it's not the 5G we're talking about that comes off your wireless router, because it transmits at 2.5 gigahertz and 2.4 and 5 gigahertz. So we're not going to be talking about that specific radiation, but as Lloyd said, that is a concern for us as well. So, it is the latest generation of cellular communication technology following 4G LTE. So it's advertised as the new high-speed cell phone technology, and it's really created an industry buzzword, 5G. So it's really a popular topic of conversation these days. We kind of hesitated on making this millimeter wave meter because we didn't know whether this 5G was going to take off, because it really doesn't make a lot of sense to me, because it doesn't penetrate into buildings. How are they going to use it? So it can only be used in open spaces. So it still kind of puzzles me a little bit. But on with the explanation. So 5G has three frequency ranges. So a low band, a mid band, and a high band. So first talking about the low band. So it's 600 megahertz to 1 gigahertz, and it's similar to 4G LTE. It is moderately faster. It has different modulation patterns, which we'll talk about in a little bit. And, they're repurposing some of the 4G frequencies and giving them to the 5G, and they're starting to fade out 3G a little bit at this point as well. So I believe they're, in North America at least, I believe they're 30 or 40% done implementing 5G in the low and mid bands in North America at this point in time, which is October 2023. So they're trying to basically they're trying to pack more information into these data transmission channels, and therefore creating a more digitally dense wave. So there's more modulation in this wave because they want to send more info, and that's the way they get higher speeds. So being exposed to different frequencies and modulations affects our biology in different ways, which the electric universe explains very thoroughly. Yeah. So then we look at the midband. So the midband is 1 gig to 6 gigahertz, and it can be 3 or 4 times faster than 4G LTE, which is a decent speed improvement. So it works fairly nice. And high frequency bands are basically 24 to 40 gig in North America primarily, and they can go up to 90 gigahertz in the future. So these are also known as millimeter waves, as we talked about. And again, as of this point in time, October 2023, I'd say 98 to 99% of all 5G transmissions are in the low band, and we only have 1 or 2% in the high band in North America. But I know in Europe, I don't believe they have this millimeter wave band transmitting right now. I think they're in the 3.5 gigahertz range, if I'm not mistaken. And also we know that the low and mid bands transmit a so-called beacon signal, which radiates 24/7, and it's fairly significant power-wise. And as we measure this 5G high band, it also transmits a 24/7 beacon signal, but we're measuring them at much lower power density levels. However, when your phone connects, then we get into this beamforming technology, and it's part of the 5G high band, and it's not on, but it comes on demand. So whenever you initiate a connection and start streaming data, we see much higher power levels than the background beacon signal coming from the tower. So if you're in this region that's being beamformed, you're going to see much more significant power density levels of RF radiation in it.
Where we're getting exposed to 5G?
Frequencies in the low band and mid bands, you treat them the same as 4G LTE. They're basically going to be everywhere, and they can penetrate through walls and ceilings and floors, and they will enter our buildings at the low and mid bands, just like the current cellular technology. So where would you be exposed to 5G? Well, anywhere there is cellular service. because they're implementing this as a upgrade to 4G LTE. So whenever you see that service sign on your phone, you're going to be exposed to a 5G service. There is still 4G and 3G out there as well, which we're also concerned with. If you have a phone and you're actively using it, especially one that's compatible with a 5G network, you're going to have higher exposure when you use your phone for sure.
Yeah. So my position is everybody should be on board with EMF protection. Everybody should be aware of this problem, of these dangers, because that's what the science is telling us. So thank you so much, Rob Metzinger. Thanks for attending. All my interviews are available in the EMF Experts Solutions Club. And until next time, my name is Lloyd Burrell from electricsense.com. Thank you so much. Take care. Thank you. Bye-bye.